So Francis Ngannou did what everybody said that he couldn't do, and he put Tyson Fury on his ass last night. And in my opinion, he won the fight clearly. It was a complete and utter robbery. It was disgusting to watch. And there's a multitude of facets that we could come at this whole thing from. One being that boxing is a joke. Another is the fact that we elevate these people to certain heights there where they have legendary status and nobody can touch them. And I don't believe that's true either. Also, the MMA community are just as hypocritical as the boxing community. The boxing community, as we saw last night in the aftermath of this, we had Lennox Lewis, we had a couple of other people coming out saying, yeah, we think that Tyson Fury did enough to win the fight. That's to be expected. They're not going to let their sport falter at the hands of MMA, these like savages who fight in an octagon. We also have a large number of MMA people that want to jab at Dana White, kind of like the Ariel Helwani group that are saying, look, I told you so. You said that this wouldn't work out for him. Number of different facets that I want to talk about. Before I do, if you could hit subscribe, I'd really appreciate that. So I guess the best place to start with this is, how did Francis Ngannou, an MMA fighter who has been injured, out of action for the last 2 years or something crazy like that, how did he look? How did he stand up against the world heavyweight champion of the world, Tyson Fury? Simple answer is, he looked 10 times better than Tyson Fury. I couldn't believe my eyes. I actually believe that Francis Ngannou has made the transition better than anybody else. I mean, Conor McGregor looked okay for 4 or 5 rounds against Floyd Mayweather, who has never lost to anybody since then or before then. But you could look at Conor and you could look at what he did on the night and be, okay, that's really good. That's surprising. And since then we've had an influx of all these like celebrity mishmash boxing matches, MMA guys, YouTuber guys. Not interested in any of that. I actually, for my sins, paid for the card a few weeks ago between Dylan Dennis and KSI and Logan Paul and Tommy Fury, all these guys. I paid for it. What an absolutely disgraceful spectacle that was. I think a lot of people are drained with this whole MMA fighter is fighting a boxer, how's it going to pan out? And it usually pans out with Tyron Woodley face planting, or Ben Askren getting lamped all over the place, and even the great Nate Diaz getting put on his ass. Now of course there's all mitigating factors in there. Ben Askren can't fight. Tyron Woodley was apparently past it. I don't know. There's always this skepticism in that fight because it looked very fake with that overhand right from Jake Paul. But it has to be said that when we look at the echelons of fighters, I mentioned this before about football, you know, like when you watch a soccer team like Manchester United and they're completely out of strikers, so these players that they spend 100 million, maybe 150 million on are injured, and they bring up some 16-year-old kid from the academy who bangs in 2 goals and all of a sudden is on the team and is faster, more tenacious, and actually wants it more than the guy getting 170 million. These anomalies are out there. They do happen. I've said it a million times before. But what way did Francis transition into the boxing? That's what everyone wants to talk about. I can't believe it. It's like a different person from the MMA Francis that we've seen. He literally held the center of the ring, stayed so tight, stayed so concentrated, never faltered once in terms of a game plan, and looked like the better boxer on the night against the great Tyson Fury. As I said, I'm not a boxing fan. I don't really have too much interest in it. It's a bit all over the place like. But Francis's style and his approach to this fight last night wasn't this crazy outlandish MMA style that Tyson Fury just couldn't get used of. He was a better boxer. Simple as that. He had a better performance, he had a better game plan, and look what happened. He ended up putting this guy on his ass. The experience of watching the fight was quite surreal because I was in shock that Francis looked so good. I was in shock that he put Tyson Fury on his ass. And we saw the look of worry on Tyson Fury's cornerman. And obviously he was showing the effects as well. His face was battered up and he looked out of sorts and out of place against an MMA fighter who has never fought boxing. And that was the 5th round, and the commentators mentioned that they had Ngannou 5-0 up at this stage. Now I wasn't scoring this fight in them sort of terms, but I kind of started paying attention from the 5th round on, and from the 5th round on, nothing happened in terms of Tyson Fury turning it around. In fact, in the later rounds, there was barrage after barrage coming in from Francis Ngannou, and it just kind of solidified the fact that he won the fight. And then it went to the split decision, and then Tyson Fury got the win. And after that, sure, that's a turning off moment right there. Like, how could you watch that? In fairness to Francis Ngannou, he didn't go crazy and he didn't shout foul, he didn't start attacking people. He said that I need to learn, I need to get better. But I'm sure at the back of his mind, right there and then, he knew that he he was robbed. He 100% robbed. Tyson Fury knew that this was a robbery as well, but he looked so out of sorts, man. His face was fairly battered up, and I don't know whether he was shocked or whether he was just embarrassed by the whole escapade. It was just a crazy, surreal fight, and there was so much surrounding it. We had the fake African lads walk out with Francis Ngannou, which could have been cool because you want to see a little bit of solidarity with the MMA community, but they're two lads from New Zealand and America who might have been to Africa for like 5 minutes at one stage, and I see people putting them up with their Black Panther-esque pose, and I'm just like, ugh, God, you're spoiling it. Just give Francis his due. He's worked hard, he's done what he had to do. He lived in Africa, he worked in Africa, he escaped out of Africa illegally. He did the hard work, he got where he wanted to be, and he just beat the heavyweight champion of the world. So Adesanya, just gonna push over there out of the photograph, please, because you're embarrassing everybody in it. And that was a common thread across social media last night from the MMA community. And again, I'm going to have to call out the hypocrisy from them, because so many people are writing up that this was a robbery, and they're correct. Where is that anger when it comes to the UFC robberies that happen on a regular basis? I think it was a robbery that our African champion Usman lost to Khamzat Chimaev last week. Did that not warrant the entire MMA community coming out shouting robbery? I think it did. I mean, if we look at Usman, Khamzat Chimaev, Gilbert Burns, Khamzat Chimaev, Paddy Pimblett, Jared Gordon, Kamaru Usman, Colby Covington 2, Shevchenko, Grasso. I mean, the list goes on and on and on here of robberies, right? I don't hear anyone screaming and shouting about that. But listen, it's to be expected. They're getting behind their boy, and rightly so, because look, this does really highlight the fact that the gap between MMA and boxing isn't as big as boxing aficionados actually make it out. Like Luke Thomas says, there's levels to this, and there's absolutely no way that an MMA fighter could go in there and do well against an elite boxer. That was proven wrong. And always we're talking about consistency. But it's hard because nuance and subjectivity, people are going to veer from left to right and they're going to pick a side. That's always the way. There's never going to be an impartial point of view right down the middle. And I guess I'm not that guy either. You know what I mean? I was looking at this fight last night. My money was on Tyson Fury. I didn't put too much weight into what Francis Ngannou was able to achieve, and then it got turned around within 3 or 4 rounds. And as soon as it gets to the point where there's nefarious action involved, and I knew they were going to steal this from Ngannou, I'm like, absolutely not, man. I'm not having that. I'm not having that. Like, there's no way. This is a robbery. It's disgusting. It has to be called out. And I thought that Tyson Fury would be the guy that would come out and say that as well. Obviously, you're not going to come out and say, yeah, I think I lost that fight. But maybe he did, because in the interview, you know, he didn't really speak too much about it. He gave due respect to Ngannou. He said, listen, he hits hard, he's hard to catch, he put me down, I've been down before, but look, it was a good fight. There wasn't too much bravado there in the aftermath of getting lumped all over the ring. I don't know where Tyson Fury goes from here. I mean, they had some sort of stupid face-off with Usyk. It was embarrassing. I mean, completely embarrassing. It was in the corner of the ring. Most people weren't even engaging in it because one dude couldn't speak English, and Ngannou was up on the shoulders of like Mike Tyson and all the African lads over in the other corner, and everyone seemed to be loving what was happening there. And over in this corner then you had this fake face-off that Tyson totally didn't want to be involved in. Usyk couldn't speak English, so he wasn't able to say a word, and then you had Frank Warren doing the talking for Tyson Fury. It was like this Mexican standoff between about 3 or 4 people who had no idea what they were doing or why they were doing it, and in the middle of that you had like the Crown Prince dude standing up there not knowing what was going on, getting tapped on the head by all the boxers. Absolutely bizarre night. Definitely putting these elite boxers up on these massive pedestals, saying that untouchable by any fighter, MMA or YouTuber. That ain't it anymore, man. This whole thing is corrupt. It's as simple as that. There's hypocrisy everywhere. But the only thing that I can say, being 100% honest, is that I was massively impressed with Francis Ngannou. He looked like a fantastic boxer last night. Looked like the better boxer. He's done the work. He's made the money. Fair play to him for that. I wish him all the best going forward. Let me know your thoughts down below. Hit like, subscribe and share. Cheers.